Hi, everyone. Bear with me. This is a local first. Hopefully you can see me. There should be a comment section or some way to do comments at the bottom. Not too sure. This is, we're going to start in 3 or 4 minutes. Just wait for a few more people to arrive as they come in. Thank you so much for joining us, joining me. This has been a bit of an undertaking. It's tricky to get these things set up in a quick time frame. I'd like to thank Amy Filsinger, our communications officer with the local. She did a lot of research and we figured out that this would be the best first way to run this. We will look at some other methods and more advanced methods as the time goes on, if this is successful and if this works. Hopefully someone's texting me at some point if we're live. If not, then I might be just talking to myself, but we'll find that out as well. We'll figure out a way, hopefully, that this will be recorded and posted on this channel, and we'll try to use it throughout this period, however long it lasts. I have about... Oh, there we go. Thanks, Melissa. Welcome. I appreciate the hello. I feel very isolated right now, like many of us. So it's good to 3 weeks, 4 weeks between 60-70% of our membership unemployed right now. Daily OTs, LTOs are far and few between. It's been challenging. I know that everyone has different struggles right now. I have a couple of young kids at home, and one of them's asleep right now, and who knows, the other one might come barreling through the door at any moment. But it's been tricky for a lot. I've been trying to answer as many emails and help people work through. Hi, Jeff. Thanks for joining us. I've been working through helping members try to navigate a federal program that keeps changing. Just recently, ETFO was pushing to try to help out our partial LTOs and our partial members that were making a small amount. But even then, we have people falling through the tracks or through the cracks. For example, people in point 2, I just heard from, are ineligible for the CERB and ineligible for EI, but it's less, working is less than the CERB amount, the curve amount. So lots of challenges. Looks like we have about 20 people joining us, and it's 3 o'clock, so I'm going to get started. If people come in late, I believe they can scroll back and maybe catch up with the live feed. Again, please bear with us. This is a first. And we'll try to, thanks Tiffany, thank you for joining us. We'll try to work out any errors or anything that we have. I know that Amy was looking at a way that we could have simultaneous casters and someone else could read the questions and have a little bit more interaction. So we'll get started. Thank you so much for sending in the questions that we have. Again, if you have something specific that you have a personal employment issue, always send something to the local, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. These are really good broad questions and broad concerns, and hopefully you're all thinking about them, and we can answer them. So I'll get right into it. The first question we have is about local bargaining. I just sent out a message. ETFO Provincial sent out a message to me to send out to you through the ratification of our central agreement. And that process is going to go forward, and there's a lot of information there. But what that does mean is we can actually bargain locally. And local bargaining tends to deal with the more process-wise and non-monetary issues, some hiring practices, what a daily day looks like, materials, plans, prep time, all those pieces that are really impact the day-to-day workings and the employment, whereas provincial deals with monetary and benefits and there's some hiring practices there as well, but bigger topics. So the question I have is, what are the items at the local bargaining table? What will they be? So your executive has a bargaining committee that has been meeting over the last couple years. And last year, they developed a survey that was sent out to the membership. And they asked priorities, questions, what's important to the membership, took that survey, and we have been developing what's called a preliminary submission. Basically, the beard got shaved off during the isolation period. It had to go. But the preliminary submission is a document that we utilize as our goals, I want to say pie in the sky, what we would like, the ideal collective agreement, upgrading the collective agreement to the perfect level. And that preliminary submission is off to provincial to be approved. It's been developed, and you will have a chance to vote on it. What that voting looks like, usually in a normal situation, is we come down to the office or a space that we rent, and it's presented, and you see it in your hand, and you have a chance to vote on it. It's going to look a little different. The committee will sit and develop something. It might be a Zoom meeting. It might be Google Hangouts. Might be something like this with feedback, but it's going to be very different. But you will have a chance to see what is being proposed to the board, what our asks are. It's all based on the survey. It's all based on what you provided, and you can vote on it. And you can vote yes, say this, we like this, or no, you need to go after some different priorities. There's next question is, what are the contract teachers items? Are we aware of what the contract teachers? They have their own process, preliminary submission, and some of our pieces are the same. We'll usually work together to make sure that we're in line with each other, but they have a very different collective agreement than us, and there are different things that they have that we would like. So we'll actually often have a larger preliminary submission because there's things that we would like to gain that they have specific to some leave language for our LTOs, a big piece, and obviously hiring practices concerns our members. Question regarding the status of Regulation 274. When this member was listening to a town hall, they were under the impression that since there is no agreement about hiring practices, that 274 will be in place. However, based on that, they've heard that the Ontario government could still change it. We have some concerns. What can you let us know about the status of Reg 274? Well, the central agreement that you may or may not have seen at this point it doesn't include language protecting 274. But what it does do is it doesn't agree to the changes that OECTA to. And this question asks about a worst case, best case scenario. So crystal ball, ETFO provincial, when the time is right, is going to launch a campaign to maintain fair hiring practices, if not improve them, and pressure the government not to make any changes to it. If they are going to make changes, my guess is the worst case scenario is they move to an OECTA model. Now, I haven't seen exactly what OECTA agreed to, but I believe it's along the lines of that 66% of the jobs go through the fair hiring practices and up to 30% go through an alternative model. That's kind of the one aspect that I've heard. The other aspect of it is that everyone is placed onto the LTO list. Now, I can't confirm both of these pieces. So there's actually a positive aspect to it. There's a negative aspect to it. But I think if the government is looking to change it, they will most likely change it to the OECTA model. Best case scenario is that we can actually campaign to improve it. I think that's unlikely, though. But that's where I think 274 will go. Regardless, at this time, actually, the next question says, what will future hiring look like at this point? There's no changes. The hiring will continue until that, if or when those hiring practices are changing. But the government simply, it's not a priority at this point. I mean, they have enough, other education minister has enough on their plate, and this is not a priority. So I don't expect any difference in the foreseeable future, that's for sure. Here's a question. I just noticed an all staff memo regarding reporting absences. Wondering if the board will need or use daily OTs to cover these absences. If so, how would they work? It's quite clear that a daily work seems almost impossible to facilitate in this current environment. There was a memo from the ministry instructing the boards not to utilize daily occasional teachers. LTOs are coming out as normal, as what a normal process still exists. But yes, daily occasional work is no more, and I don't see the board, the ministry, or ETFO coming up with a process for that to exist, unfortunately, in this environment. What we are negotiating or discussing is short positions, things like 5-day positions where usually there'd be a daily OT covering off day by day. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist. So what about those medium-term positions? What's less than the LTO but greater than the period of that you would need a teacher to be involved? And that's still in discussions. There's been nothing confirmed. In regards to LTO postings, there's a question here about the decreased number of LTOs being posted during school closures, and if there has been stats, if there's been a decrease, if there is chances of getting an LTO. So I crunched some numbers, and since March break, there's been 3 or 4 permanent contract positions posted and 23 LTOs. This is about a 60% reduction from this time last year. In 2019, there were 3 contracts posted in from March break until this time, and over 78 LTOs. So we are seeing a severe reduction in LTOs. There would be any number of reasons, but I think we can all surmise that it has a lot to do with the fact that teachers are not in class. There are less people, getting sick. The maternity leaves are still continuing on, but I believe the sick leaves, the stress leaves, and other leaves, unpaid leaves, where people were taking trips, have all been canceled. So there's a severe reduction. I see the questions coming in. Thank you so much. I'll try to get to them as well as we go down, and maybe I'll hit on them from the original questions. LTO list, will it be updated and ready for us to view to know our seniority? Great question. As you may or may not know, there's always a big chunk of permanent contracts and LTOs that come out usually around the end of June in preparation for the next year. Last year, we didn't see a lot of contract come out because there was funding stripped. There was significant funding stripped, and we expect those jobs to come back quite significantly in June for the September year because of the successful negotiating for the additional spec ed funding and whatnot. So I think we will see significant contracts and LTOs through that process. It will most likely be delayed. Our process is relies on the process of the permanent teachers first. They have what's called voluntary transfers, or they call them VTs. And once that process goes through, it's a bit of a domino effect. The jobs spit out and LTOs spit out to our members because of the issues that are going on right now. HR is obviously delayed. The board has been scrambling. We've been scrambling. Teachers have been scrambling. Ministry's been scrambling. Parents have. So I expect it to be delayed. I haven't confirmed with timelines yet. I expect to have some conversations with Human Resources in May about what June will look like. There's a quick question here about, seems to be along the line, LTO jobs being rescinded after they're posted. I went and saw there was about 5 or 6 that were rescinded. It is common to have jobs rescinded if they're posted in error, if there's change of plans. Maybe the leave was an old leave that someone had put in for and then has since canceled, and they were scheduled to go out. They realized that the leave was no longer required and they had to go and cancel it. We also have seen people canceling or ending their mat leaves early. It's all trickled down to the effect of what's going on. Each individual issue is different, but I have been in talks with HR to review leaves that are ending early, mat leaves, rescinding of LTOs, to ensure that there was a reason or a process that was followed, and we haven't seen anything nefarious at this point yet. Comment on the rest of the school year, what it'll look like for OTs and possibly schools not opening in September. I don't have a crystal ball on this one. ETFO is in constant communication with the ministry. We are expecting an update. I mean, at this point, as of today, we were supposed to be back May 4th. I don't think that's going to happen. I just sent out an update from ETFO that says they're expecting an announcement. We do know that the ministry has made it clear that they're basing their recommendations on those of the health experts, and that information is changing constantly. So if I was betting, if I had to put money, I would guess it's unlikely that school will be back to normal for this school year. That would be my guess. At the very, very least, if we did return, school would look very different on the day-to-day, but I suspect that's unlikely. Oh, good. I just saw Amy logged in there and is taking control of some of the replies. So thank you, Amy. I appreciate that. And I don't know if you're here early, but I wanted to give a shout out for all the work that you did in preparing this, and hopefully we can fine tune it. We already have 54 people tuning in. So I think that's an indication that people are looking for some communication and another avenue of information. For our people in LTOs right now, updates on report cards. Will they be changing? What will they look like? It's a bit of a balance between seeing what the ministry's directive is and seeing what the board is looking to do, and listening to teachers and listening to members and parents to find out what is reasonable, what an expectation is. The ministry has confirmed that as of right now, the marks will be based on prior to March break. There's been no direction on comments. There's been no other direction on reporting. It's still something that is a priority for the locals. I know the permanent teacher local is working with learning services. I've had meetings with learning services because it's unique for our members as well. Not only do we have people that are in LTOs for full years, but we have people that ended LTOs or are starting LTOs during this time, and those considerations, those pieces are taking into consideration. My goal for the membership is try to make it as reasonable as possible, knowing that this is a unique time and that it's very challenging to create those comments based on a limited evaluation period, as well as whatever this learning and teaching looks like. I think that covers a lot of the pre-sent or screen questions. If I missed one, please put it in the live chat, and I'll get back to it. Or if you want some more clarification, I'm going to go to the live chat, do a quick scan, and try to connect on one. And Navi, you have a really specific question about individual curb. I'm going to take that one. If you, I'll write it down, or I'll copy and paste it and send you an email about that later, because it'll take some time to go into some of the details, and it is quite specific. Sarah, we touched on these LTO jobs being rescinded. I haven't seen anything nefarious for that reason. I followed up on most of them, and there doesn't seem to be a process that's not being followed. There seems to be a reasonable explanation for each one. Looks like Jeff's already helping out people. Emily asks, do you know why there's been a few LTO postings go up and down and then canceled? Yeah, again, it's simply because people had filed for leaves that were canceled, and the process, the LTO popped up. It's simply an HR person to put into place, do a posting on a timeline that it had already been sent out. And then when that comes to the principal says, well, the person canceled their leave or is no longer going on the leave. We don't need that LTO. The medical, someone's medical changes and comes back, or something is ending early, or it was posted in error. That does happen. And I think because of the concerns, just because of the challenges that HR has been going through with the changes and scrambling, I think some more errors were made. But if there are anything that were posted that should be posted, we'll follow up on it. Rescinded that should be posted. Yes, Eric asks, has there been a large increase in teachers ending their leaves early, resulting in LTOs ending early? Do you have a stat on that? I don't have an official number, because the only way I would know if LTO is ending early is if the teacher reaches out to let us know and ask what can be done. Unfortunately, it's a balance. We have 2-week notice language in our collective agreement, in our contract. We didn't always have that. So at the very least, they can't end it right away. But you have to understand that the teacher collective agreement allows them to end these for various reasons with documentation. So a medical leave, we have seen a lot of people that have been, having a medical leave end early. Mat leave, people have looked at their finances, and it's unfortunate for us, but those teachers who are on mat leave that decide that they want to end that mat leave early for financial reasons, for other reasons, have that right. And we simply have 2 weeks notice, and it's unfortunate. It's maybe something that we'd like to adjust in the future, but our jobs only exist as casual employees with the absence of the teacher, and when that absence no longer exists, it's problematic for us. Sorry to hear that, Jamie. Unfortunately, as long as you had the 2-week notice. If you do want to email me and let me know the position, I can double check, but I have been in communication with HR to verify that any LTO that's ending early, that they followed the proper process, including documentation or medical. And that's the main issue. Sarah asked, if June LTO contract postings are delayed, how will they conduct those placements and interviews with summer vacation happening at schools and the board office? So actually, before the LTO list and before central placements, interviews happened throughout the summer. They were all over the place, and we'll definitely have to look at a set time frame that interviews will happen. If there's still rules about social distancing, they will have to happen digitally, online, through some type of process. And I guess the good part is people will not have anywhere to go, so they'll be available for that. But that will definitely have to be considered. And when we get to the June postings and summer, we'll have to evaluate what our world looks like and if it can be as normal as possible. But yeah, we'll try to. The goal will, as always, set a specific time for any interviews that are required, so that people can work their schedule, their summer vacation, if there's an option for summer vacation around that. Yeah, so Eric has a really neat question about contracts and LTO. Sometimes they go hand in hand. So in 2019, there was actually at one point there was negative 4 or 5 contracts. They actually had more people in positions with the teacher local than they had more people in positions with the teacher local than they had positions because of cuts. And that's why we saw contracts, 0 contracts come out in June, and then a few come out in August, I guess it was. The year before, we saw an average of 80, 90, even 100 contracts come out, actually the 2 years before that, and it just crashed right to 0 last year. I don't see any reason why we won't go back to those significant numbers and significant movement based on the collective agreement, the tentative agreement that is potentially coming into place. It has significant funding for those positions that were removed. And you also see often after a tumultuous round of bargaining, a lot of retirements, just because it's been a challenging year. And I don't think that will be any different. I expect we will see a significant amount of retirements due to the work action, but also due to the environment that we're in now. It's not a nice time to be teaching, especially if you're in the end of your career. It's very different for a lot of people. I mean, even this communication was I've never done a live event, and many teachers I've heard it said a few times, we're putting the airplane together while it's flying. Many of us are not trained in distance education or emergency education, what we're doing now. And it's very stressful for a lot of members, a lot of teachers. And we have kids at home. I mean, it's a very challenging time. The work never seems to stop either. You're doing a lot in the after hours. So, will the hiring process still be the same? Yes, the overall hiring process, I don't expect it to be different. The timelines will change. The logistics may change based on COVID, based on social distancing. But I suspect, without formal confirmation, the hiring practices are still in place. There will be central hiring. There will be, based on the LTO list, there will be placements. There should be placements, and then in August we'll see those positions and LTOs come out, and we'll get people squared away. I really don't expect it to be that much different, other than the logistics of social distancing. And I think there may be a delay because of the backup. For those LTOs, what are general guidelines from WROTL for online learning? Been hearing a variety of things from my contract colleagues at their unions telling them in regards to videos. Realistically, it's the issue is the live component, and the board has now initially said don't do anything live. They have now started to say, okay, we can start to implement that. Our perspective as a local union is be safe, protect your privacy, be cognizant of the environment that you're in, and it's a professional decision. You are able to do this distance education with pre-recorded videos, postings, emails, telephone calls, all those. You should be able to put a program together as best as you can. I mean, there's no right answer for any of this. I mean, everyone's making it up as they go along. You do what you're comfortable with. If you're not comfortable having a live chat with those students, or you feel that it won't work for your situation, for the situations of students, then you don't have to. The challenge that we're facing is some teachers are going ahead with it, some people are not. So it's the live hangouts, and that will have to be explored on a case by case. If you're having issues with it, with the administrator pressuring or parents, come, we can talk about it. Send me an email. If you want to do it, the WRDSB has said you can. Would I do it personally? It would depend on the students, the needs, my comfortableness, and my knowledge of those programs that are being used. So, everyone, we've been live for half an hour. I don't see any more questions coming in. I hope that I have answered some of them. I feel like often in time it's a wait and see, but be assured that there are people behind the scenes advocating for these issues, and it's so great to hear them, because you're not alone. The concerns that you have, other people have. People have been emailing me, the executive, and we're talking about them, and the phone calls are going in and the emails are going in to push the board and to make sure that the employees are heard. And this is a very challenging time for a lot of us, and hopefully things can get back to normal. We've been pushing really hard. I think there is some good success, even federally. This local organized other locals to lobby the government in the first place to even create the CERD, and now we've expanded it. We are also pushing the government, along with other organizations, labor unions, to expand it to part-time workers. And I do believe that the organization of ETFO has had a big impact on both of those pieces. And that's all I have for you. So I wish you all well. If you have any specific questions that I missed, let me know. We'll try to run this again. I think it's been successful. If you thought it was worthwhile, send me an email. If not, then send me an email as well, and we'll go back to something different. And I want to thank Amy and the executive. We actually, as an executive, decided to put this in place. The permanent teachers were running it. It's a little bit more polished, but we'll get there. I wish you all the best. Thank you so much for tuning in. Be safe. Take care of your family. If you have kids, give them a kiss tonight, because it's challenging times, and hopefully we can get back to normal as soon as possible, because this is hard for a lot of people. All the best.